lot has happened in these past few days, so let's get into everything that happened today, starting off with Crimea. So basically, according to a Russian military blogger, Ryber, the Ukrainians launched several missile attacks and drone attacks on Crimea, all being shot down, and there's literally no geolocated footage to contradict this. However, what was strange about it is that the two Ukrainian missiles were not heading towards Crimea. They were heading towards this area where the Russian fleet retreated after they got severe damage near Sevastopol. And the missiles fell off, and basically they didn't have the range. But what this military blogger is saying, and other military bloggers are saying, is that this was a test by the Ukrainians, and soon the Ukrainians will start attacking the Russians over here. And if the Ukrainians can land a successful strike on the Russian fleet over here, the Russians may have to rethink their whole Black Sea control thing. Now moving on to the ground, which we see Kinky once again. A lot of Russian drone attacks on Kinky. These drone attacks are on the artillery systems around Kinky, on the Ukrainian side of the river. There are also a video, which I'm not going to show, but of Ukrainian boats with their marines in it being attacked by FPV drones. This was a Ukrainian HIMARS strike, and I believe this is a Russian air defense system. And as you can see, let me speed this up because it may take forever. As you can see, the air defense system, or whatever this thing is getting ready to do its thing, and the HIMARS strike, and it is not the best situation for it. I believe this is the same area, same vehicle, but different area. I guess actually it's not. It's a new place, and another HIMARS strike on a Russian artillery piece that I'm pretty sure that Russian artillery piece was destroyed. Now, and the Russians also reported that they shot down the Ukrainian Su-24, excuse me. However, there was no geolocated footage of it. However, we may get that footage later on. Now, moving on to Robotyne, where the Ukrainian gains are being evaporated. All the gains that they worked for during the summer counteroffensive are being taken back by the Russians. As you can see, a lot of heavy bombardment on the Russian side, bombardment sometimes on the Ukrainian side, but mostly the Russians have control of this area, complete superiority, and that's probably why Ukraine felt the need to do a HIMARS strike around Bakhmut. And as you can see, this is the Ukrainian Legion. They're giving a shout out to their men. As you can see, this where the Russians are, where they are positioned, and any moment now you'll see the HIMARS strike. And yep, that's a HIMARS strike. The people driving that vehicle, by that vehicle, probably did not survive that. Now, moving on to Avdiivka, because Novomivkaivka has basically slowed down. No geolocated footage from today. Moving on to Avdiivka, as you can see, the Ukrainians are launching some counterattacks around Stopove. The situation in Avdiivka for the Russians, I would say their offensive in Avdiivka has halted, and it's probably not going to pick up speed anytime soon. Now they are focusing on their most successful front. I would say their most successful front around the Bakhmut area. We did get some reports that the Russians did manage to advance slightly. However, those reports come with no geolocation. However, this Ukrainian counter attack that I believe features the Bradley, they do have video of it, and you are seeing that video right now, that Bradley blasting the Russians in their area. As you can see, that is very heavy fire, and it proves that the Ukrainians are making advancements in their counteroffensive. This is an old video from a couple months ago, and then now we go back to the new video. Many people are saying the Ukrainians are going to launch a counterattack around Stopove area. I do believe it, and they may even try to shoot for the Terrakhon. If they recapture the Terrakhon, not only will it be an embarrassment for the Russians, because the Russians did kind of make a big deal out of it when they had captured it from the Ukrainians, it will give the Ukrainians the strategic advantage that it currently gives the Russians. And also, over here, the Russians are doing FPV drone strikes. Not going to watch that because those drone strikes are against Ukrainian infantry. However, the front line is basically static for now, and we have another HIMARS strike by the Ukrainian forces around this area. As you can see, that thing went kaboom, and that thing is definitely never returning back to service. Now moving on to Russia's most successful front, the front of Bakhmut. We can see in this video, I'm going to forward past the beginning because the drone attacks against the Ukrainians. In the beginning, these were said to be Ukrainian soldiers retaking trenches, and some people are saying these are Russian forces. I currently believe those are Russian forces just because we have gotten no information of Ukraine launching a counterattack. However, some sides say it's Ukrainian, some sides say it's Russian, so it's up for debate. It doesn't really matter what side it is. The Ukrainians all suffering some heavy casualties and losses around this area. Also, the Russians did manage to take this strategically important tree line, and the Ukrainians confirmed that by bombing the area and posting those videos. So people say the Russians will be able to take Avdiivka before the end of January. I personally don't believe that because how the pace of this war has been going. It's been very slow and grinding. I'm not saying the Russians aren't going to take it. It's not like Avdiivka. It's rather small and thin. However, it can still be a fortress depending on how they use it. So I believe the Russians have all the ability to take Bogdanovka. However, I don't believe they're going to do it by the end of January. Now we also have reports from, I would say, pro-Western mapper, Syriac map, of the Russian advancements over here. So the Russians are just making a ton of advancements. Again, Bakhmut is their probably favorite sector right now. That's the sector where they're making their most progress, even though they're making a lot of progress also in the Robotyne area. We got reports of Russian attacks and reports of Russian control, but this really doesn't, we have no geolocated footage for it, and we haven't for a long time. Over here, the front line is basically static with the Ukrainian drone attacks. Again, not going to show it because of the loss of Russian forces all throughout these drone attacks. Over here, the Russians destroyed a tank. Moving on to Synkivka, the Russians have basically been utterly annihilated in Synkivka. On this video, which I'm not going to show because YouTube would definitely ban this video, if not the channel. There are over 70 dead Russian soldiers. I lost count after 70 dead in this area. The video geolocations were taken around this area over here, marked in the green. So all around here, not a big spot of land. When you measure it out, it's about 0.6 kilometers long and about 0.3 kilometers wide. So not a big part of land, but there were 70 killed Russian soldiers. And on this video, there are more killed Russian soldiers. I'm just not going to show it because of the YouTube restrictions on that area. I'll say the likelihood of the Russians taking Synkivka, especially at this time period, is very low, especially since it seems like the Ukrainians are launching a counterattack over here. I don't think the Ukrainians are planning for anything big like pushing them out of the forest. I think the Ukrainians are just trying to take back all of Synkivka, and then they're going to be okay with it then. The Russian attacks in Synkivka actually started around late September, early October, and they still haven't managed to take this town. However, it was not with the intensity that it was a couple weeks ago. Still not managing to take this town. There were video and photo confirmation of the Russians in it, but now we see from this video that if you have a military summaries map, you can watch to your heart's content. We can see with this video that the Ukrainians now have taken back all that land. So since Synkivka, I believe, is a victory for Ukraine, Russia may try and likely will try to attack it. When they first started attacking it, I thought it was going to fall within a month, and I thought they could have been at Kupiansk by now. Did not happen, and the Russians are having serious issues around Synkivka. Now, moving kind of off the front lines, but still talking about the war, Russia and Ukraine have been like on a tic-tac thing for the past couple of days. It all started when Ukraine bombed Belgorod, and I'm not, all these people, please, I'm not saying that it's Ukraine's fault, and a lot of people say it all started when Russia invaded Ukraine. I'm saying this specific time period, it all started when Ukraine attacked Belgorod with cluster rounds. Russia retaliated, but this was after Ukraine attacked Russia with cluster rounds after Russia did launch one of the biggest strikes on Ukraine, I believe the day before that, and Russia retaliated. Now Ukraine retaliated with attacking Belgorod.